And I want to thank Chair Madrigal for joining this press conference. It is yet another illustration of the high level of coordination that exists between the county and the city under her leadership. Thank you, Madam Chair. The mayor has been fully briefed, and we just got off the phone with the governor's office. The #1 job of the Portland Water Bureau is to provide safe, clean water to people and businesses in our community. When we find bacteria in the water system, we take it very seriously, and we take a cautious and conservative approach. Today, we're announcing a boil water notice. A boil water notice means that we're advising people to boil for at least 1 minute any water they're going to drink, brush their teeth with, or use for ice. We know and regret that this is an inconvenience, but public health is our top priority. 670,000 customers citywide are affected by this notice. The Water Bureau website has an address lookup feature that allows you to type in your address and see whether you're in an affected area. The website also has information about sampling protocols, how the Bureau responds to positive tests, and how they make sure the water in our community is clean and safe. We will continue testing the water, and when we confirm that it's safe to drink, without boiling first, we'll let everyone know the notice is over. The next speaker is Water Bureau Director David Schaff. David.
Thank you. I hope you'll excuse me, but I'm going to read this more or less verbatim so that we make sure that we cover all the important pieces. Potential bacterial contamination has been detected in the Portland drinking water system. Further sampling and investigation is being performed to better understand the extent of the contamination. Until the full extent of the contamination is better understood, drinking water and public health officials are asking the public in affected areas to boil their water before using or use bottled water. The drinking area the area is all customers of the Portland Water Bureau, the Burlington Water District, City of Gresham north of Interstate 84, Lake Grove, Lorna, Portland Water, Palatine Hill Water District, Rockwood Water District, Tigard Water Service Area, and that includes Durham, King City, and Bull Mountain, Valley View, and West Slope Water Districts. Customers, to determine if you're in the boil water notice area, for more information and for frequently asked questions, you can go to www.portlandoregon, all one word, portlandoregon.gov/water/boil water notice, all one word, to find detailed maps and, as Commissioner Fish mentioned, an address lookup feature that allows you to put in your address and look up and determine whether or not you're in that affected area. Or you can call our customer service center at 503-823-7770 and provide your address, and we'll tell you whether or not you're in that area. Customers in this area should bring any tap water to be used for drinking, teeth brushing, or ice to a rolling boil for 1 minute before using. Customers can also use bottled water for these purposes. Do not depend on home water filtration service systems to treat your water. The boil water notice will be in effect until further notice. The next set of water quality results will be available tomorrow morning, May 24th. At that time, the Water Bureau will announce whether or not the boil water notice needs to be maintained or whether or not it can be lifted. As Commissioner Fish said, approximately 670 people are in the affected area. 670,000, thank you. Boiling water is an inconvenience, but it's the best way to protect public health until more information on the extent of the contamination is known. We're going to acknowledge that there's much uncertainty here, probably more than everyone would like. Our guidelines and advice may be interim and fluid and subject to change as we learn more. We're moving quickly to learn as much as possible and working with the state and county health partners to do so. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Paul Lewis, the Tri-County Health Officer, to talk about the public health effects, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about what we're doing now, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Great. Thanks. I'd just like to reiterate what David said about following the instructions and doing so safely. I also want to try to provide a little bit of perspective about this. We've been working closely with the city in the last couple of days, and we think that overall this is a very cautious approach that we're taking. We're staying within our the same process that we always use, but we think the risk to the public is very low, and the basis of that is the series of results that we've received, plus the fact that in addition to checking the microbiology, they also check the amount of chlorine in the water, and it's very adequate and should make the water safe. The other important point about this is safety, and if you're not using bottled water, we want to make sure that people boil water safely, and there's a couple of simple tips for doing that. One is to use a back burner on the stove so it's not near the front where it could spill on anyone. Also, not to use your largest container. Use something you can lift, preferably with one hand. And then finally, it takes boiled water quite a while to cool down, so make sure it's adequately cool before using and even before moving. Now, another obvious question is, what kind of illnesses would we expect to see if the water were contaminated? And that would probably be diarrheal illness. And in the Public Health Department and throughout the state, we monitor for bacterial diarrheal illness, and we will be able to detect if there is any increase. I don't think in the situation we're in there will be any detectable increase in diarrheal illness. Finally, I want to note that although the organism detected as part of our routine monitoring has the name E. coli, it is not the same as any of the other E. coli that you report on or the things that are going on nationally with Sprouts and hamburgers. It's simply a marker of some kind of animal fecal contamination in the water. Doctor?
So what are we doing? We're conducting additional water quality testing throughout the affected area to better understand the extent of the contamination. The Water Bureau is flushing the area to get rid of any contaminated water. We're investigating the area for possible sources of contamination. Contamination can be the result of a variety of things, such as backflow from a local service, an intrusion of surface water after a drop in pressure, conditions that expose drinking water to outside elements, such as our open reservoirs. We may never discover the actual cause of the contamination. We're working closely with Multnomah County Health Department and State Drinking Water Program. For the interim, we are bypassing the reservoirs at Mount Tabor. We're running off the conduits directly. We believe we can do that relatively safely, and that pretty much concludes the formal portion of our press conference, and now we'll ask or entertain questions.
Why are we just now finding out about this? Are you just not issuing the order when May 20th?
And we do want to recap right now. You've been listening to a live press conference with water officials with the City of Portland. A boil water notice for the Portland water system has been issued. This does affect 670,000 customers. They recommend boiling water for 1 minute before using anything for food, water, brushing teeth. They will continue testing the water. They said do not rely on home water filters. They also say that this is not the same as other E. coli. Officials do say it is a marker of fecal contamination, and they do not know at this point when it might be cleared up. Joining us on the phone right now, we are going back to the press conference right now for more on the question and answer session.
Until those samples come back. Those samples came back yesterday. They were all clean. However, a regular sample, we take about 240 samples a year. A regular sample at a water quality sampling station at Southeast 2nd and Salmon tested positive for total coliforms and E. coli. That starts a new process where you resample above that spot, below that spot, and then that spot again. Those results came back this morning. All of those samples were clean. But a regular sample, again, another regular sample, this one at Reservoir 5, came back positive for E. coli. We start the process again. We test upstream from Reservoir 5, we test downstream from Reservoir 5, and we test at Reservoir 5 again, as well as doing what we refer to as surveillance samples. And on let's see, on Wednesday we conducted 23 resamples and surveillance samples, all of which came back negative. Yesterday we did 21 resamples and surveillance samples, all of which came back negative today. So, clean. So the process that we're going through is independently we had all of these things happen. Normally, if everything comes back negative following that, there would be nothing further. The state, though, has said with these 3 incidents right after the other, we are going to require you to do a boil water notice.
Please restate the question when you hear it from the reporter.
Okay.
Commissioner Fish, can you tell us why the reverse 911 wasn't used?
We have actually implemented the reverse 911 system. It's going, we launched it right about the same time we sent out the press release.
Can you tell us why the website crashed?
I don't know the technical reason, but I think it's because of all the traffic that's going onto it right now.
Do you need a better website?
Well, we can address that question to Carmen Merlo. Once the press release went out, the Twitter world blew up. And I think we're seeing the evolution of the social media here and the pressure it puts on all of our systems. We have a state-of-the-art website. It has been crashing. We're correcting that as we speak. And obviously one of our debriefs will be to find out, Carla, why that happened and how we can make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
Are you bringing more people in to answer phones during this time when the website is not working?
We have fortunately, today's a regular working day, we have our entire customer service department, plus we're calling in other emergency responders from elsewhere in the Water Bureau. So we are staffing all of the phones and trying to talk to all of our customers as quickly as possible. And of course, that it's a citywide website. It's not just the Water Bureau website. There's other city traffic going on, so that's what's causing the problems. But people should be able to look up their address and determine whether or not they're in that boil water notice. And of course, you all are helping with us by indicating what the limits of that boil water notice area is.
I have another timing question. I have to ask it just because we've been asked it by the viewers. Some are questioning the timing of the announcement just days after the election. Did you know about any contamination before the election?
No, it was a routine sample that was taken on Tuesday, which was the day of the election, and those samples come back the following morning. So this was a relatively routine process. We have these occur on not a regular basis, but they happen over the course of a year, and it's not uncommon for us to get a total coliform positive. When we have an E. coli positive, we stand up our EOC, we prepare for a potential boil water notice, and we go from there.
Can I just add one point on that? Our primary concern is public health, and there will certainly be people watching this who think we've done too little or not enough, and they are entitled to that view. But the reality is this is a heavily regulated area of our water quality. And we have specific guidelines we follow working with bodies that regulate us. And we have virtually no discretion once with these kind of tests. And again, I hope our customers and the public understand that we err on the side of public health. And look, in a perfect world, tomorrow morning we'll be able to announce to Portland that we can stand down. That would be wonderful. But until we've done further testing, we can't say that. We're painfully aware that we're going into we're going into a holiday weekend, and that this is an inconvenience for people. We regret that, but we're also guided by good science and regulations, and we're doing what we think is prudent and necessary to protect public health.
Speaking of that, do you have any way of knowing that this would
Hang on.
So let's take this question. Go ahead.
Do you think this is another example of why the reservoir should be covered?
So the question is this another example of why reservoirs should be covered? Look, we're not here today to make political statements on that issue. The federal government has ruled that we have to either cover or disconnect, and they have made their decision on the basis of science. That's not what today is about. Today is about following rules and regulations and protecting the public health. But when we do identify the source of the E. coli, and that is, animal waste, it may very well underscore why the federal government decided that we are better off covering or disconnecting our reservoirs.
Didn't this happen 2 years ago? Is it the same bug?
Yes, we had a boil water notice one-day event in 2012, and then the first one in the city's history was Thanksgiving of 2009.
Is this the same bug then that was in the water?
Dr. Lewis, I think you'd have to answer that question.
terminology gets in our way sometimes. E. coli is a giant family with lots of cousins and relatives. It's only used here as just a marker of fecal contamination. Per se, it doesn't make you sick at all. All of your bodies are full of literally trillions of E. coli right now. So it's just a marker. It's not an actual illness, bacteria that can make you sick. But if there's fecal contamination in the water, the logic is that there could be other things besides that marker organism, and that's the reason for the cautious approach.
How often are reservoirs tested?
Chris pointed out to me that I said we take 240 samples a year. It's 240 samples a month.
How many of those 240 are positive? How many of them are contaminated? You said that it's not that infrequent.
Well, I'll have to get back to you. It is not uncommon for us to have to go through this where we have a positive sample for either total coliform. For total coliforms, perhaps 3 or 4 times a year. Sometimes it's more than that. We've had one this year. This is the second time this has occurred. E. coli's are much more uncommon.
One sec, Carla, let's go right over here to Amelia.
You said that the Water Bureau did not make the decision to issue this boil notice, that you wouldn't have done that. The state asked you to. So
no, I didn't say we wouldn't have done it. I said we were directed to by the state.
Why did the state direct you to do that?
Because there were 3 incidents, all one right after the other, that detected a fecal contamination in the water.
Well, Amelia, let me just clarify, because there's the implication that somehow we were resistant to doing something. We're a heavily regulated body. Once certain tests show positive, then it is the Oregon Health Authority that has a sliding scale of directives, and they make the judgment and we execute their recommendation. We don't have the discretion on that. And so that is the mechanism set in place to make sure that the public health issues are paramount.
And what does it mean that the follow-up, you had these 3 individual samples that tested positive, but then follow-up testing didn't, all of these follow-up tests didn't turn up anything. So I guess, how do you interpret that?
Well, I think that what that means is that whatever we have is probably very localized and transient, because with all of the samples we've taken, both the resamples as well as our regular normal sampling, which we're still doing, they've all come back as negative. So we've had 3 positive samples out of what's going to turn out to be 40 or 50 samples over the course of the last couple of days come back positive. So the state has a protocol. They may require us to do something. They may recommend us to do something. In this case, they said you will do boil water notice.
And is there a margin of error with your sampling, or is there, do you know how often you get either false positives or false negatives?
Chris, why don't you come up here? Introduce yourself.
Chris Warner, Director of Operations for Portland Water. Our water quality lab has an extensive QA/QC program, which is quality analysis, quality control. Every day during bacteriological testing, QA/QC procedures are followed, which ensures that we are accurate in our lab results.
So you're saying this isn't a false positive?
This would not be a false positive.
How high of a contamination level are we talking?
For these types of lab results, we get it's either a positive or a negative. So it's not a quantitative; it's a qualitative analysis performed.
That brings me to my next question to Dr. Lewis. You said based on this level, you don't really think most people are going to have symptoms. Can you expand on that?
Right. Each day, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's been tens of samples taken from throughout the system. And each day, they've all been negative the last 3 days, except for one, and they've all been in different locations. So that tells us that, in general, there's nothing bacterial in the water at all. And then the second factor that I do want to reiterate is that the water system is engineered so that once the water leaves the treatment facility, it has what we call residual chlorine in it that keeps it safe in case some rainwater or something else got into it. So without going in too much into false positive and false negative, confusing words there, given the adequate amounts of chlorine in the water at the same time as small amounts of E. coli were detected in only one of many samples, that gives us the idea that there's not much there. We're just literally at the limit of being detectable.
So let's say someone does get diarrhea.
And you have been listening to a live press conference, and if you are just joining us, here's what you need to know. A boil water notice is in effect because E. coli bacteria has been found in multiple samples. It is for all Portland Water Bureau customers. That is 670,000 customers. Until further notice, all customers should boil all tap water used for drinking, food or ice, and brushing your teeth. Boil for 1 minute. What we don't know right now is if anyone has reported being sick or how long this boil order might in fact last. Tualatin Valley, Sherwood, and Tigard not affected by the Portland Water Bureau's boil water notice. The only school affected is Clear Creek Middle School. And joining us on the phone, Portland Public Schools spokesperson Christine Miles. And Christine, what is the school district doing to keep students safe this afternoon?
Well, right now we are closely following all the city guidelines. The Water Bureau sent us specific guidelines. And what we've done in all of our schools is that we are posting signs on the drinking fountain, letting our students know that the drinking fountains have been turned off. We're also been advised through the city that if students brought their own water bottles from home, that they are to dump that water out. So again, we are following all the safety precautions that we were sent to by the city. And again, you know, our students, and we have great staff, teachers, principals that are working very quickly with these guidelines because first and foremost, we want to make sure that our kids are safe and that they can go ahead and keep focusing on their studies.
Christine, when did you first hear about this?
You know, we were notified right away about mid-morning from the city, so they've been fantastic. They've been very clearly giving us guidelines for us to send out to all of our principals. We're sending out notifications to the parents, to the schools. You know, we don't advise that the students be released early because if they go home, they're going to face the same situation. They're not going to be able to use the water at their home. So we are just preparing them for when they do have to go home to make sure that they remember not to drink the drinking water and to take other precautions. And I also want to say we have a great community support. We've had several area bottled water groups step forward and want to deliver water to our schools. So, again, we're just working with everybody, and we're going to get through this.
And, Christine, has anyone actually reported being sick up to this point?
No, they have not. So far, we've been doing really good with that, so we're thankful.
Okay, Christine Miles with Portland Public Schools, thanks so much for joining us on this live phone interview. And right now, the boil water is in effect, and we sent our Amy Frazier out to see how people are reacting. She is live in Southwest Portland. Amy, what have you learned?
Well, I'm at the Safeway here in Southwest Portland. Take a look. We are seeing a whole ton of this going on. Basically, people coming out with as much water as they can carry. I just spoke with some people who are inside. They tell me that the shelves at this point are nearly empty as people try and get their hands on as much water as possible. Safeway people here tell me they are working on getting more water in. It's been a real scramble during the last hour or so for people to get a hold of water, especially for restaurants. Think about them right now. They are in their lunch hour. Again, we've seen people come out of Safeway with just cartloads of water. I stopped at a Higgins in downtown Portland. They tell me they have destroyed all their pre-made ice. Right now, they're only serving customers bottled water. I spoke with an employee from Higgins just a little while ago who is rushing to the store to get more water and ice. Here's what he had to say.
They have a boiling water warning right now, right? Mm-hmm. So I work down at Higgins, just gotta make sure we have bottled water.
Yeah. How much are you having to get?
We bought 10 gallons just now and 10 bags of ice.
Now, also, there are, of course, public water fountains all over town. We saw Water Bureau officials out turning those water fountains off so that no one drinks that water. Back to you.
Amy Frazier reporting live. Thank you, Amy. Meanwhile, the kickoff to the annual Rose Festival starts tonight with City Fest. So we wanted to know how that is going to be affected by this morning's announcement. Alicia Esch is live at City Fest with that answer. Alicia.
And good afternoon to you as well out there, Mike. I am here with Rich Jarvis, and we've been talking throughout the morning and this afternoon, Rich, about this boil water effect. We've got a lot of people here, particularly food carts. You've been telling me tap water is usually used here. What are we doing about that?
Right. Some of the food prep is done with tap water, and they prepare the food and some of the drinks. So we've instructed all of the food vendors here to dump their products. So any products that were made with the tap water today are being thrown out. And that includes anything that's drinking or eating products, and that they will start over with bottled water. We just got a sheet here from the Multnomah County Environmental Health, and it's giving us the instructions on what to do, and we're going to start following that and hand them out to all the vendors and make sure that everybody's in compliance. So it's all about communication right now, just getting the word out, making sure everybody understands what they have to do.
Sounds good. Very much about communication out here, reporting live at the Rose Festival. Alicia Esch will get this on our website, KOIN.com.
Alicia, thank you, and stay with us for all the developments on this breaking news today. Portland Water Bureau customers say a boil notice in effect. We'll see at 4.
Can we have a copy of this?